That's a good thing. I have a very conflicted relationship with this franchise. And I'm going to try and be as positive as I can with this episode, because this is the double-edged sword. You bring up Star Wars, you bring out a bit of like, the problems, but that's with every fan. I do have an episode planned in the future for I don't know, is it going to be a double-length one or something, because there's a lot to say, just my feelings towards the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but that's going to be down the line. This is a very complicated relationship I have with Star Wars. I first got into Star Wars when I want to say it was about four or five. First ever Star Wars I ever watched was Empire Strikes Back at my cousin's house. It was around some kind of holiday time. I don't think it was Christmas. Or maybe it was, I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly the time. And it was just when, they have like the Star Wars, they had the original trilogy marathon. So, I think it must have been to do with The Phantom Menace being released that year. Because I was 5 in 2000. So, yeah, so I must have been about 4 years old, and yeah, they must have been some kind of marathon thing. The first ever Star Wars film that I ever watched is Empire Strikes Back, the definitive best Star Wars film. It's universally loved. It's probably the best written. Empire is it's great. Everyone says everyone loves Empire, and yeah, it's my favorite one. And I obviously have a bit of a bias to it because it was my first Star Wars. So you never forget your first time. So with Empire, I remember just watching it. There was a green puppet, and there was giant lightsabers, light sticks, and people shooting each other, and this guy with a really bad asthma problem. And he was also saying that he was someone's dad. Also, I probably should just say this now right beforehand. I'm going to be spoiling a franchise that's been around since 1980. So, yeah. I can't be giving out about any spoilers. So, with Star Wars, yeah, I fell in love with it straight away. I really, really, really enjoyed it. And I think Return of the Jedi came on afterwards. And I watched about half of it because we had to go. But I just remember being, like, awestruck at this, like, spectacle. And I have a weird relationship with Return of the Jedi. I'm not sure if I actually still like it or not. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, yeah, Empire Strikes Back, and I was determined to know. My mum was always saying about like, oh yeah, she was telling me what Star Wars was, and then I think I rented a VHS copy of it a couple of days later, and watched the thing in full, because I think I started watching Empire. I was turned on the TV when Luke is training with Yoda and Dagobah, or he's starting to. I think it's when he was starting with, and it's a little bit vague. So I didn't even get to see the Battle of Hoth at the start, which is one of my favorite battles. It's one of my favorite segments in Star Wars. And yeah, and then a couple of days later watched the VHS, and I just fell in love. I loved it. I loved all the characters. I loved the way it was written. I loved the story. And then, of course, they started advertising that The Phantom Menace was coming out in cinema. And I was losing my mind that, oh my god, a Star Wars is coming out today. Or not today, this year. I get to live when there's a Star Wars being released. And now, jump forward to present day me, and I'm sick of hearing Star Wars releases. So it's an interesting journey to go from awestruck to just sick of a franchise. I'm gonna be one of those kind of blunt Star Wars fans. I'm not a toxic fan. I don't consider myself a toxic fan, but I understand it's a fantasy movie about wizards fighting with glowing sticks and shooting at each other. There is themes, there is good storytelling, and there's fantastic characters, but at the end of the day, that's what Star Wars is. And I love it. I do. but it's when people get too caught up with it. It's the toxic fan base, and I've tried my best to keep away from it. One of my closest friends from college, me and him were just massive Star Wars geeks, and we used to always freak out over it. The Last Jedi came out in our final year of college, and we had really, really built it up. And I'll get into The Last Jedi. That deserves an entire just podcast on its own, because, well, if you just go onto YouTube and type in The Last Jedi, you already know. So, with Star Wars, I went back and watched A New Hope as well, and then Return of the Jedi, and I love A New Hope. It's such a good film. Yeah, A New Hope and Empire are they're two of my favorite Star Wars films. Return of the Jedi, it's a good conclusion, but I think it's an overall very boring film. The more I watch it, the more I hate it. Well, dislike it. I don't hate any of the original trilogy. I think they're all very good films. And I think, I don't know why. I know that Return of the Jedi isn't the most universally loved one as well, but maybe it's just the story or just the way it wraps up. Like, the whole segment with Luke finding his father at the end is great, and Vader's redemption is just fantastic. Great. That's the best bit of the whole thing. And the space battle. That's cool. Everything else, I think it's the Ewoks or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, that trilogy stuck out for me for years, and I've always enjoyed Star Wars, and I never got to see the original. Obviously, I never got to see the original trilogy in cinemas, but I never got to see the first two prequel movies in cinema, apart from Revenge of the Sith. So, yeah, a year later from it's 2000, and Phantom Menace is out on video. And I got it, or I think my cousins had it as well, and I borrowed it off them or something all the time. And sure, when you're a kid, Phantom Menace is one of the coolest films ever. And again, you look up YouTube, and it's you already know that Phantom Menace has it's not a good film. There's cool parts to it for when you're a kid, and there's cool ideas such as Darth Maul, but overall, it's a bad film. And then we cut to, I can't even remember the release date of the prequel films. It's 2000. Yeah, I know Episode 3 came out in 2005. Attack of the Clones came out in 2004 or 2003. Anyway, cut to a couple of years later, and Attack of the Clones came out, and I remember being even as a kid, I remember being very, very bored by that film. And like, that's the problem with the prequel trilogy, is that George Lucas is, I'm glad he created Star Wars, and I'm glad he brought these characters in my life, but he's not a good filmmaker. And there's plenty more people that have covered that. He's not a bad guy, he's just that he's an ideas guy, and he doesn't know how to translate it well screen, and it's the prequels that are evident of that. Like, he spends a lot of the prequel trilogy with politics, and with a movie called Star Wars, is trade negotiations something you really want to be watching? No, it's not. And then I got to see Revenge of the Sith in the cinemas. So that was my first ever cinematic experience watching a Star Wars film, and I had kind of all loved, back when I was younger. I didn't really pick a favorite over each one of them. Well, I mean, I would always slap on Empire, but like with the prequels, I just watched them, and I was happy with them because, you know, as a kid, you're happy with them. And I saw Revenge of the Sith, and I loved it. I really, really loved it, and I bought a lot of memorabilia for it and merchandise, sticker books and trading cards, and surprisingly not a lot of action figures. The 2D Clone Wars series that Gennady Tartakovsky, no, I'm not pronouncing that last name right. He did the fantastic Samurai Jack series. Cartoon Network did 2 seasons of the shorts of Star Wars: The Clone Wars before the 3D series that came out. And yeah, fantastic. That's something that really, really holds up, and it's a really good short cartoon. I definitely recommend checking it out because each little episode is only like, I think they're only like 3 or 4 minutes long. They're all a bunch of shorts. You just watch them all in together because it tells one narrative storyline. But yeah, with episode 3, it wraps up the Clone Wars, and you see Anakin's fall to the dark side and rise of the Empire. Cut to me playing non-stop Battlefront 2, which is still my all-time favorite Star Wars game for the PlayStation 2, which I still have working, and I still play to this day. I don't have any kind of modern consoles or anything, so I'm still a sucker for vintage PlayStation games. I'll probably have an episode surrounding that, actually. So yeah, it wrapped up, and it felt like okay, we got 6 movies, and we're done. We tell a story. We started off. We've got the backstory to the villain. There is a lot of bumps on the way. We even got a little fill-in to what the Clone Wars was, and everyone was kind of happy. And then I think in 2011, the Clone Wars 3D series came out, and I remember looking at it when they announced it. They came out with the film first, and then they were saying they were going to do a series about it. And I was very, very hesitant about it because I didn't overly like the animation style, the way the characters were, and I was kind of getting to a point where I was nearly, I was sick of Star Wars, I just wasn't overly bothered with it. I think I just watched the movies so many times. So then we cut to, yeah, I saw the animated film, and it didn't blow me away. It was alright. And then the series kind of started. I tried watching it at the start, and I wasn't too taken with it, and I left it alone. And that was it. Star Wars was done for me. And we're reaching 2013, I think. 2013. There's been about 3 or 4 different seasons of this Clone Wars stuff, and I occasionally hear about it that it's really good, and I slap on a random episode. And I don't know, I don't quote me on the episode title. It's just that they take down, Grievous has this new ship, General Grievous has this new ship, and it sends out this like electromagnetic pulse, and it can basically stop any like enemy ships or whatever. And I watched the episode, and I was blown away by the writing, that something like this was on Cartoon Network, and there was people getting dismembered and heads being chopped off, and it is this dark. It was a little bit dark and gritty, but at the same time it was telling a really good storyline. I couldn't get over it, so I was kind of like, okay, I'll give this a go. And Clone Wars it's a very, very good show that starts off a bit kind of rocky, as with most shows do, and then by halfway through, I think season 2 is when it gets really, really good. So, but again, season 7 actually just wrapped up today. I haven't gotten around to watching any of this new season, bar a fight in it, because people are just raving about it. I was delighted to hear that they were continuing it and wrapping it up, because I was a fan of the series, and I had watched the 6 seasons, and then season 7, we didn't know, nothing was going to happen with it, and then Disney bought Star Wars, and we were all kind of sitting on the edge of our seats and trying to figure out, are they going to do it? And they did, and it's Dave Filoni, he should have taken over this new trilogy. For the record, if anyone doesn't know who he is, he's the head writer, I think. And he's the kind of creator of Clone Wars, but he's also a producer and co-writer for the Mandalorian series on Disney Plus, which I'm sure that you've probably, if you're a Star Wars fan, you've watched it a million times already. It's fantastic. It's such a perfect show that it's what I want for a Star Wars. But yeah, I'm jumping ahead there. So cut to 2015. We get the summer of 2014, and we get the announcement of The Force Awakens coming out. And when the first trailer came out, I actually didn't like it. It was, I don't know, I think it was this sacred cow kind of idea came into my head. I didn't really want another Star Wars film. There was a part of me that was also kind of like, oh god, Disney bought it. I don't know how I feel about this.